To make marks on your paper when you're shading, how it's often more helpful to hold it down at this angle than to hold it upright, but it doesn't really matter. You need to experiment and find what's comfortable for you. But I want us to attempt a couple of different approaches for getting our graphite in our spheres. One where we're kind of going directionally. See how I'm kind of going, I've got kind of the slanted line motion going. I'm still going over and over it to fill it in. My slanted lines are not going to show in the end. And I can even change direction to almost create like a cross-hatching effect. So we'll do one this way and then I'll demonstrate a different way. So as I'm moving towards the center, so I'm just pretending about my light source is coming from over here. So the edges are going to be a little darker than the center. So as you can see, I'm lightening my touch a little bit as I go up. Now, this is not perfectly smooth because there's no way to do that in the 2 minutes I've been working on this. It's going to take a while. So we'll take our time and enjoy the process today. This, like I said, is my HB, but I'm going to be going over some of the edges with a darker pencil. I turn my drawings all the time as I work because it's a lot easier for me to control from a certain direction. Paintings as well, I flip my canvas upside down all the time, sideways. So I'm getting lighter up here. I'm still using that back and forth slanty motion. And this is just about all I'm going to do with the HB for now. I'm going to switch to a B. It's going to be a little bit darker. And I'm going to go in from the edge and start to darken a little bit more.
That's a 2?
This is a B. I'll go to the 2B in a minute, but I thought I'd take it one step at a time. I am not pressing down hard at all. I'm kind of just skimming the surface. Lightening as I move in, pressing down a little more along the edge. I am not doing that. That's going to be our next one. I'm going just kind of up and down and back and forth. And I can turn my paper as necessary for more control. But I'm keeping this motion just kind of back and forth and light.
How much of the motion is your hand and how much is your fingers?
It's kind of in here, yeah. It's kind of wrist at this point. So that's because I'm shading, that's a really good question. It's because I'm shading a larger area. I mean, when I start doing detail, I'm gonna be, in like this with my fingers. But at this point, yeah, this is kind of just like wiggling my wrist a bit. So I'm getting darker. And if I'm gonna work this to the point where it's perfectly smooth, I will be going in and hitting all those little grooves. Right now, I'm not too worried about the grooves yet. So here's the point where I'm gonna say, all right, my edge is a little wonky. Let me go in and fix that. Shade right up to it, maybe go a little beyond it where it's necessary. I can always go in and erase. But I'm not drawing an outline. I'm going to not have this edge be any darker than the shadow leading right up to it. You might notice that I have a couple of times caught myself from starting to go like that because that's my preferred method. We'll do that one next. No, back and forth. So you can see the dimensionality really emerging as I go darker. Starting to look more and more round. What if I keep going? That was my 2B. Here's my 3B. Even darker. So I am at this point ignoring the top. So let me stop going dark and I'll go into the lighter area. So that was HB, so now I want to go the opposite direction. The next lightest is the F. So part of what I'm going to do in this lighter area, well, first of all, I got to clean up that wonky edge. Very lightly go in and fill in where I've still got the white of the paper showing. Now, obviously, everybody's going to have a different definition of, you know, when is it smooth enough for you. I don't like to have any lines showing in the end. I will have all of that filled in on a finished drawing. Doesn't mean everybody has to, but that's what I like to do, to go in and really fill in all of those lines. So that's my F. Next is H. You don't necessarily have to do every single pencil, especially since, as we know, you can get a pretty good range. Just varying your touch within each pencil, but I'm doing it just for you to see. And I could skip from the F to the 2H if I wanted to. So how lightly, in these light areas, how lightly can you just barely skim the surface? So one thing that students ask me sometimes is about going over lighter pencils with darker pencils. If you've started in the mid range with an HB or so, not a problem to go over it with the softer graphites. If I go over an area with something harder, like an H, and then try to put something really soft on top of it, it won't accept the softer graphite as well, because you've already coated your paper with this instead. So the graphite wants to go directly to the paper, so if you've coated it with a hard graphite, which has more clay in it, if you coat it with this first, it doesn't take the harder stuff, the softer stuff as well. It's not really as much of a problem as I feel like people worry about. I get so many questions about it, and honestly, I don't even really think about it most of the time. So don't worry about it. Just know that if you've gone over something a lot and your paper is completely covered already with something hard, it may be difficult to get something soft on top of that, which is why it's a good idea to start in the mid-range and then go softer where you need to and harder where you need to. All right, ready to play around with this? Okay. So in order to get this really smooth, I could spend a couple of hours on this if I wanted to. So just so you know, like that's, you know, if you feel like this is taking a long time, it's because it does.
And the rest of the time that you would be doing would be the same or
so I would be going in and just completely smoothing it out, just like making sure,
basically same technique, but
just changing direction a lot and making sure that I'm intentionally hitting the spots that are still light. Like you can see, I'm looking for those spots where there isn't really value yet and going into them. And I could do this, I mean, obviously I could do this I love this. This is meditation for me right here. It's so fun.
And when you're doing it, there's no like inner dialogue. It's just do it.
Well, I mean, I'm not enlightened or anything.
No,
but-
I mean, I say, oh, that's dark. That's too light there.
Oh, that kind of inner dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't. No, I don't think so. I mean, I think I'm just.
Like it. I mean, you're carrying on a conversation while
Right.
that's going on, and that's
Yeah.
it. Almost, what it felt like was direct from eye to
Yeah.
eye to hand.